Hello, everyone, and welcome to, I think it was the third episode of Let's Create with Barbie. I have you in my kind of corner of Red Raspberry Studios where I tend to create a lot, actually, watercolors or art journaling, like is our topic today. Our theme, I should say, of the show. The topic is a little different. I thought I'd change it up a little bit. You saw it in the background last episode, and so I thought I'd start off here. Plus, everything is here, so makes it easier for me than moving. So what can I say? So there's lots going on in the studio. It's summer. I'm trying to take a more relaxed approach to things. I hope you're able to get a little bit of time in for something such as what we're going to do today, a little bit of creativity. Now, as I kind of talk through this, one of the disclaimers is I'm not an art therapist at all, but I'm just going to talk about some concepts that have worked for me. So the topic is putting it on the page. And what I mean by that, it can be thoughts, it can be, and those thoughts could be words, those thoughts can also be images. So, it's up for interpretation always and what works for you. But the technique I'm going to show you today is kind of a fun one. And I think it does lend itself if you are a one that likes to get thoughts out. I'm certainly one. I'm going to talk a little bit about this journal before we get right into it. If you've perused my blog at all, and I put another one out a couple days ago, I talk about some of my thoughts about art journaling and themes around my show. So as you can see, this is probably a page I would not say is like my best page in the world. But in 2013, I was coming off of kind of scrapbooking things, and I think I was still kind of there. But so here's another put it on the page. Dream big, build bigger. I was starting to conceptualize Red Raspberry Studios. So yeah, I'm not saying I like these. So one of my top tips of creativity is letting go of perfectionism. Like, just play. This is what I love the art journal for probably the most. I'm going to sneak peek the page, but you can even just do backgrounds. Anyway, so for today, the theme around putting it on the page is the idea on this concept or this technique is words. So I don't know if you can really see. I'm going to put it up a little bit. On this particular day, went through and I just did like a brain dump, what they call it, free writing, free thought. You're not worrying about punctuation or anything else. And I actually started this way, and I wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote, turned, wrote and wrote and wrote, another turn, wrote and wrote and wrote, another turn, wrote and wrote and wrote. And you can get really a cool, background right like that. If you want to see your words, you could even just stop right there. But the watercolor over top and max and things can really help to camouflage your words. So I find it helps me to, I've got the words out or the thoughts out, and now I can kind of let them go. Now I can kind of make them disappear, especially maybe some of the thoughts that we're not so fond of or do want to let them disappear. So we're going to go to a page. I'm going to go back to some of these pages that you've seen. I kind of did a scribble. So this also could be a technique. Maybe you don't even want to write. Maybe you just want to scribble the heck out of a page in the background. It's going to give you some, just some interest back there than just a general, blank page. You're already starting out with some elements. So we're going to talk about watercolor. And one of my other big things I want everyone to remember when you're creating is, and when you're following along with me, I'm going to try to get the camera in a little bit more. You do not need to have expensive artist quality, whatever supplies. You just don't need to. I could easily take all my markers and have fun coloring this in, and you can tell this, marker looks a little dried out, to be honest. but it's not going to matter for this technique. If I'm really using markers or paint markers and such, and I want it to be a true, flowing marker, then I tend to have a page beside me so that I can test out those markers. So that's another tip. You're getting hints of tips right now. Hints of top 10 of creativity. I did this by accident. The Crayola marker can smudge. I just didn't say I did this by accident. I guess I was like wondering if it would work. And it does work. And you get almost a watercolory effect. Not a super, super duper one, but you kind of do. And I should step back a little bit. You may care if this smudges or not, or you may not. If you care if this smudges, the writing I'm referencing, then you would use something that is water resistant. But in some of what you're doing is trying to camouflage the writing, then that actually can be a fun, thing to happen. Actually, another element that's smooshing around, as I like to call. So I work a lot with liquid watercolors, and they come in different ways. They're in bottles. They can be in droppers. This particular line and particular bottle, I think I've had for maybe 5 years now. You can tell what colors I tend to use a lot. Oop, I see I was not in the camera, so I'll pay attention. And you just use this by the droppers is what I do. If it doesn't already have a dropper, just pick up a few of these. I've had this package as well forever. But one of the cool things about these kind of, or any liquid watercolor in the bottles like this, is that they'll dry up. But it doesn't matter because you can re-add water to them. And it's already started to do its thing. All right. So I can add a little bit more water and let it sit for a second. And it will really get into the water. Now, you might have, I don't want to do brands too much, but let's just say watercolor pans at home, maybe even your kid's stash. You can do the same thing. So you take a bit of water. You can do this with your paintbrush as well. Just load it up and just keep dropping water in. And let me see, I'll go with this. So you just kind of do watercolor droplets in there, water droplets into the watercolor. And we're going to let that sit for a second too. All right. And there's a couple ways you could do this. You could get your page ready for the watercolor by already kind of doing water on. And you can tell that this is actually not a watercolor paper, but it's my art journal, and I'm not going to be precious about it. So it's I'm putting a lot of water down here, and the page is somewhat not happy, but it doesn't matter. It's in your book. So there we go. If we want it to get to just straight up watercolor again, I'm just going to mix it around because it's on the bottom. I want all that nice color to be in there, all that nice pigment. And there we go. I've actually reconstituted this watercolor a few times now, so that's why it's a little bit more muted, but that's okay. It doesn't hurt the effect. It doesn't bother me at all that it's not as bright as it once was, because especially when you're maybe putting it on the page, maybe you want a more muted tone or something. Here we go. So that's that color. So there's like 3 kind of Crayola marker, nice liquid watercolor. Now we're going to go to the probably more typical watercolor that people can have. So again, read your children's stash or grandchildren's stash, or hopefully you got a few supplies at home for yourself, because creativity is fun. Kind of a nice activity to do, at least for me. So, and if you're here, I'm assuming it's for you too. There you go. I've loaded my brush, and all that is I'm just keep putting it in there, and I'm smudging a little bit of the paint around with the water that we already put in there. So it's kind of making liquidy watercolor, if you will. So I can put that down. All right. And if we're working on wet edges to wet edges, like right in here, let me grab this water quick, or this paint quick, you'll see that it will kind of mix, right? You'll get a mix. And now that I've mixed those two colors together, there's another bit of a color starting to happen. So you could do this any way. You could do one color like I did on the previous page that I showed you. I can mix it up. Yeah, watercolors are excellent. You can layer. So let's layer on top of this green color. I did a little bit of layering there, so let's do some more. So you can layer with watercolors. Get kind of a purpley, right? Because the blue and the red make a purpley color. So there you go. So there's kind of one layer. We're going to let that kind of dry for a few minutes. And you could go further, but I can tell, and you can tell, just so you know, that it's getting a little bit of how can I say, like kind of look blotchy there, and that's because the water is really taking on a lot of stuff. And if I were to flip it over, woo! But no matter, we're going to get into some acrylic painting next time, and we will I'll explain kind of some of the differences. So acrylic paint you can really layer in a different way, but watercolors you can layer as well. So let's actually, because I want to see what the Crayola markers will do again. Let's do this. So it kind of layers a little bit. Get a little bit of a blend there. Keep going up a little bit. Right? So experiment. I mean, other tip is to play and explore in your art journal. And I really think that art journal's magic is the fact that it is in a book. So I don't want you to see maybe this next page. Well, I can skip it, you know. I don't have to show everything that we don't have to show everything we create. Remember what this is. This is celery dipped in paint. Maybe we'll have some fun with shapes sometime soon. And then the other thing, I don't like these pages either, but these pages, like, and here's one that I can show. This is loaded up with some of text, a book, I believe. Yeah, I see lots of book in the back of there. There's medium on here, so I've done a mask and I've put some colors over there, some medium and then colors. So the possibilities are endless on how I can cover up this water, these putting it on the page idea, especially when it comes to words. To gesso over the whole top of it and then use different papers to, bring a concept in. We're going to talk a little bit about that future one too. I keep saying that. So if you have any future ideas, future show topics, you can let me know. Here's another one where this is actually paper doily. Mask as well, some more of that music paper. And if I'm going to jump back again, because I think I want to, and tie last show together, when we had done the background last week with the tissue paper Mod Podge, you could do that again here. You could go ahead and right now put text or something right over top of the page. We've got paper towel right here that I think is really fun. I just took that apart off camera there, and we could layer that again with some Mod Podge, and that could be another layer where you're deciding that you put it on the page, but it's not something you would really like to see. And this can go for, you've written some thoughts that maybe you want to let go of and you don't want to see them anymore. It could even go for, I really don't like my page, and therefore I do not want to see it. This was kind of a background, and I ripped it up out of the book because I didn't really like this page. It's kind of like a stencils from ages ago that I don't really like this. This page, I went too wild with the medium on top, and it's actually sticking around to my book too much. It's too gritty. No big deal. I ripped it out. I don't like that page. It doesn't need to stay, which can be a little different than when we have canvases, right? When we have canvases, we want to sometimes it leads itself to, we want that thing perfect. But even on a canvas or wooden panel, whatever you're using a surface, if you really don't like what you're creating, just over it, titanium white over it, do something else on top of it. There's some artwork in this studio that's happened to, because number one, I don't want to waste the pan. I'm not going to just chuck it away. That costs the money. And number two, we could even get into where things are get layered up and layered up and layered up, right? So some of our, some people might be asking what, or thinking, what can I have for supply? So I'm going to go a little bit while we're still waiting for that to dry a little bit, and maybe go over. So, some washi tape is always fun. If you want, and again, we're letting go of perfection, but if you want to have some color theory in, our little color wheel can be really helpful. What is the opposite of the purple? It can be the yellow. And on the back, you're going to have, the triad, split complementary, these kinds of things all mapped out for you. So it makes thinking about that a lot easier. I tend to just go for it, but every now and then I've got a piece going really well, and I just kind of want to remind myself, if I do want to bring in another color or a totally different kind of color family, that I'm not going to do something that turns something to mud, or just is not going to work out so well. But also go for it, experiment. We're going to talk in our journals. Perfect place to play with colors. You're definitely going to need some Mod Podge, which is up here, some sort of glues and things. Have some fun with different kind of paint. So I've got watercolors here and kind of two different brands. Art Noise, which is a manufacturer out of Kingston. So they're here, and I don't want to drop names too much, but I definitely in the studio like to use Canadian or local as much as I can. So, the rainbow is fun to get if you've got, if you desire some new supplies. Again, this is like the, box of Crayola markers. Try not let go of any rules, and really try to, what did you like to play with when you were younger even, I like to draw, I like to paint, I like to do everything. So yeah, I hope this encourages you. And if you've made anything so far with along the lines of staying with the show and, let's create with Barbie, that hashtag is there because I would love to see your thing. So you could send me a DM, or you can hashtag your item, tag Red Raspberry Studios too, and I would love to see what you create. So let's get back to our page. So it's dry, barely. We're going to call it dry. And now I want to really get in and have some fun with these colors. So I'm going to do that's again just a blue liquid watercolor that's going to do its thing in the cup. I got a little bit of the red left. So with your watercolors, you can then just start dripping it around. I know these ideas seem kind of simple sometimes when you do them, but sometimes you need an inspiration point. So I do not have my apron on, which was probably a bad idea because here I go making a watercolor mess. But, if you care about the clothes that you have on, apron. Half the time I forget an apron. So there's kind of a meme that goes around in the artist world that everything ends up to be a paint clothing item. Paint item. Everything gets paint clothes. There we go. You can play around with it with this dropper. And I would also encourage you to reuse things. I've got, droppers from different things, old like liquid jar, liquid watercolors or liquid whatever that's come in droppers, and I reuse those droppers because why not? I'm looking at the vet syringe, I think, from when the dogs had to take some medicine. I cleaned them all out, and I've got them sitting here because nothing goes to waste here. So we're dropping around. And I'm going to probably do a face here soon because I seem to think in faces. But maybe you'd like to do a flower. Maybe you would like to do, I don't know. Maybe you'd like to have your dog. Maybe your kitty. But something that's going to bring you happiness over top of this page that we've taken the time to kind of do. Get our thoughts out. We're going to make them kind of have a different life. This is acrylic, happens to be acrylic wash, but whatever. Acrylic white paint. You can put on top. I probably use acrylic white paint and watercolors together fairly often. So, like we did last time, because things are still wet, you can kind of make it have kind of a bit of a shade, if you will. All right, I'm being silent on a show. This is what happens with creativity and why I would love to have more people feeling their creative selves again. Because you kind of get in the zone and the world can go away for a little bit. So we can do this like a primer, and obviously you could have some fun with it and put another layer of color if you want it to have color to that. I just like to use the white because it's almost like a gesso. It gives like a base. So we're just doing like this shape, right? Now I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get to the face because I've gone this way. The crux of this lesson, or the basic point, is whatever you've put down on your page, if you would like to cover it up, you can. In this case, we wrote down some words or some scribble, and the background is kind of cool because you can see it in there, right? And if I wanted to do some, let's do some hair really quickly. I'm totally gone off a little bit of what I was going to do. Let's do some hair. So I'm just, again, we're playing, so I'm just popping it right down on the page, and we're going to do like a nice swoop. I like those, I think it was like the 60s, like a swoop. Or maybe my hair, like it was a little while, undercut with the flip. There, and we're even getting realistic with the gray. So I'm just having this wide brush. We've used one brush today. And I'm just, doing some fun here. I'm just going with the flow. So out on the page, maybe this is like a self-portrait. This is your words behind. We've done some watercolor behind or on top of the scribble or text that you're writing, the words that you've written. I've used some acrylic paint to do like a circle kind of shape, a little bit of a neck. And then I went into and had some fun with hair. You can even layer on top of this again, and I will, or I would, with markers if we had this dried. Because it's not dried though, it's okay. We are going to do, I can do it with line actually. I don't have to wait at all, because why wait when you're having fun and being creative? So let's see. I hope I got my camera angle okay. I'm going to rewatch this one, make sure my camera angle has been okay this time. Otherwise, we'll think of something else. All right, so I've loaded this thinner brush with the black, and I'm going to make it easy on myself, and I'm going to say, okay, nose is right here, or middle, I should say, is right here. So nose, it's going to be about here. We're going to do a kind of squiggle line for a nose. We're going to do, I love doing these kind of lips, right? Go back and get some more paper. I don't mind that it's blending. Actually, I kind of like it. I'm going to do this. Always tricky when you're outline our features here, neck, chin. And I'm going to say, this is the nice thing about the flip. I'm just going to say, especially over one eye, is you can just do one eye. Right, so like an arc. And I could even just leave it right there and say, she's done. She has her smile on. She has taken whatever thoughts these were and changed them around to something that she's happy now about. And she's not going to worry about those thoughts that she put out on the page, you know, earlier in the day or maybe even days ago, because these art journals can be a process. You don't have to do one page a day. You could do a background one day, layer next, and continue. So that's about it. I'm going to wrap it up about here. So I hope that you will, you know, give this idea a try. Put it out on the page, something out on the page, and books don't matter. Go get something from the dollar store, one of those little notebooks, and give it a whirl. The notebook paper might be a little bit, you know, soak up a lot of the watercolor, but paper towel behind it. You know, try it. Dry those pages at each step. Or, you know, invest in, you know, an art journal of some sort if you want to. Again, support your local art supply store, or, you know, use what you can or what you have. All right, so Red Raspberry Studios is kind of on summer, so I don't have anything really coming up right now. I did just restock the Makers Hub in Winchester with some prints, and there's still a couple petite whimsical ladies there, as well as a few cloud ladies and some inky ones. And here in Canada, if you're in Ottawa and in Canada or want to go there, I always recommend Mint and Honey. And Mint and Honey tomorrow will have a line of mini selvage flowers. So we talked a little bit last time about that. This is kind of a technique I use on one of my collections, my series. And so they will be getting some minis tomorrow, and you'll see me drop a TikTok when those are ready. And if you're interested in seeing my art, those are the two places, Mint and Honey here in Canada or Makers Hub in Winchester. Such a beautiful drive. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Please leave me any comments, any questions, and of course, tag or use the hashtag Let's Create with Barbie so I can see your things. Thanks, everyone.